Would you like to know more?
Welcome to the War Master podcast. Today we're going to be looking at some American Civil War miniatures from Warlord Games. They were provided free of charge, I believe, in the January 2021 Wargames Illustrated. Friend of the podcast, Richard Boker, read to his mates, got these and printed them. Sorry, not printed. What am I talking about? That's a different set of videos. He got these and he painted them up in about 3.5 minutes as usual. So these are tabletop miniatures. They're not display miniatures, but then you wouldn't have been able to paint the 10 stands of infantry and the cannon and the horse-mounted character in the speed that Rid does if you weren't painting for the tabletop. But they have got moustaches painted. The way it works with this American Civil War stuff is they've picked their own scale, which is it's kind of understandable from a commercial point of view. It's a little bit naughty in that it will make tabletops look a bit wonky if you don't use their stuff because they've picked a strange scale, and I guess that's as good a place as anywhere to start with the scale. So we'll get the blue ruler of justice out and we measure him up, and you can see it's quite hard to always quite hard to get the blue ruler in place. They reckon they're they reckon they're 13.5 mil, which is it's quite hard to see the actual top of the foot. So there we go. Yeah, okay. So smaller than 15 mil, way bigger than 10 mil. They would look a bit bonkers if you're trying to use 10 mil stuff with these as like opposing forces. So this is what GW did with Adeptus Titanicus, or whatever that epic reboot they did. In that they did it at 8 mil when the miniatures originally was 6 mil. So commercially it makes sense. It's not great for players who already have armies painted, because it's a big commitment to paint any army, and having to paint a new army just because the scale's moved is a bit of a kick in the groin, if I'm being honest. It's not something that I would normally do. So you get these nice Warlord Games bases, which are a bit like the Battle of the Five Armies bases, aren't they? With slots and pegs, holes and pegs. You get 10 strips of generic infantry. So these infantry can be either Confederate or Unionist, or Union, or whatever they're called. I'm not an American Civil War expert. I think it's Union and Confederate, just by choosing different colours, a different colour palette. But basically, because they're the same people, the equipment's the same, the uniform's roughly the same. There's different amounts of different types of hats, apparently. I suppose with the same with the English Civil War, a lot of the distinction was in the kind of hats they use, so they could identify each other, I guess, on the battlefield. Because most of the other equipment was, as in any Civil War, is the same things that everybody is using, because you come from the same background. You've got the same. Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Civil War. So that's interesting. It certainly means that from a commercial point of view, again, Warlord only have to do one set of sculpts, only have to produce one set of sprues. So people are talking to them already about, are you going to do Napoleonics? Well, you can't get away with this kind of one size fits all with Napoleonics. British and French and Russian and German and Prussian and who are the bloody hell? There's loads of them. They're all different. So we'll have a look. You get 4 of those. Basically, you get 4 of those that we just showed. So 8 stands. They come in long strips with how many men? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 men. It'd be interesting to get a comparison with maybe 10 mil or stuff. I think all sculpts are different. They're a little bit tall and thin for my liking, but I'm probably used to metals. And metals are a little bit harder to get tall and thin, so they tend to be a little bit stockier. So, and some more here. So, got 4 of those stands, and then we have a command stand. So we need a couple of flags that we don't have in place, because I don't think Rid has got the flags. We've got a drummer boy. We don't. So there's slight variation. I couldn't see much variation in the strips in general. There may be. I'm not sure. Look, maybe it's just like the number of of each shaped hat, and obviously the pose of the guns and stuff. But I mean, the infantry uniforms are pretty standardised, so yeah, there may be variation in the strips that I'm just not being able to pick up. Okay, and then we have an officer on horseback. Nice. Maybe it's probably not worth getting the. We could try and measure the horse, I guess, with the blue ruler, because I can see the foot of the horse. So what's that, about 18 mil, I guess, to the eye of the horse, something like that. And then we have a cannon. Cannon has 4 crew, and again, this could be for either side, because all these kits come. And they've done some good terrain, and the box set contains quite a lot of terrain and quite a lot of miniatures. It's about, was it 170, something like that, with a mini rule book. I don't think there's much difference between this and the Black Pounder main game. Just half movement. Is that right? Half movement and distances. You just half them, which is kind of what we've been aiming to do with our 10mm stuff, playing Black Pounder and Napoleonics. So it's good that they've taken on board that the community wanted a smaller scale game. I've got to be honest, I wish they'd have done it at 10mm. But I'm sure commercially there's a reason they didn't do it at 10mm. And that's because it's probably the old Space Marine conundrum. That how do you sell Space Marines to everybody who already has Space Marines? Well, you make a different scale of Space Marine, don't you? Super Space Marines, as they are now, Primaris. So I'm sure the biggest market for war games in the world is America. American Civil War is going to appeal to your mature American gamers, but the big problem is quite a lot of those fellas are all going to have American Civil War armies. Are they going to change scale? Probably not. If they've already got an army, they're just going to play these rules at 10mm. But as the rules are just the rules, with the half measuring of distances and stuff, yeah, it's interesting. We'll see if it takes off. They may have some more luck with Napoleonics, because people are quite like me are interested in Napoleonics, but I've already gone down the 10mm route, so we'll have to see what it looks like if you put 10mm against these. But that's for another video, for another day. Anyway, thanks for sharing these, Rid. Thanks for painting them up in like 3.5 seconds. Yeah. To anybody interested, Warlord games, you can get Wargames Illustrated January 21 edition, and you can get yourself a free sprue. Okay. Until next time.